Hello, hello. Oh, you can actually see my little camera that's taped over, which you don't get to see. Anyways, I'm going to try and do this without the document camera. We'll see if it is successful or if it's a nightmare. I'm going to go over a couple different things with you, but really what I want to do is I'm going to go through this PDF version of just at the very beginning of the prologue and kind of give you a breakdown of how to go through and read all this stuff in the prologue. So kind of just like I did with Beowulf. Now with Beowulf, one of the things I told you guys was to go basically sentence by sentence, but it's going to be a little bit different with Canterbury Tales because Canterbury Tales was really written more as poetry. And so I've got for you here some fun little stuff. This is actually on the left here. You can see it. This is what the original Canterbury Tales would have looked like because it was written in what's called Middle English. From about 900 to 1500, this is what their language kind of looked like. And so what we're dealing with is obviously a translation. If you did see any of the stuff about Beowulf, where we looked at some of the really old the Old English, you'll know that it looks different, it sounds different. So I'm just going to go through for fun and read to you just this first portion. So this is Chaucer's prologue to the Canterbury Tales. And he says, Here beginneth the book of the Tales of Canterbury. One that April with his surest sote, the droch the march hath perched to the rote. And bathed every van and switch liqueur, of which vertu engendred is the floor. One's every sake with his sweat the breath, and spirit hath in every holt and hath a tender cropus, and the youngest son hath in his ram his half coursier on, and smaller fowlus makin melodie, that slippen all the nicht with open eie, so pricketh him nature in him courages. Dan langen folk to go in pilgrimages, and Palmer is for the second strange strondes to film houses, coast in Sonderlundes, and specially from every sheer ascende of England to Canterbury the winde. The holy bliss from Martha for to seke, that him hath holpen when that they were sick. So that's just this first little section right here. And obviously you can see I've given you this whole thing on this. If you want it, you can look it up, and there's lots of really neat stuff that goes with the actual Old English. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through that little prologue section where Chaucer kind of sets the scene and tells you exactly what's going on. And again, with let me get my text tool. With something like this Middle English, this medieval language, the trick here is to go couplet by couplet. Oops, that's not how you spell it, by couplet. You certainly can go sentences by sentences the way that we did with Beowulf, but you'll see that he has a lot of really long stuff in here. So that's what we're going to do, is we're just going to go couplet by couplet, one at a time. And he starts off, he says, when April, with his showers sweet with fruit, the drought of March has pierced into the root. So you kind of break it down. You're looking for subjects and verbs. When April's showers have broken through the drought of March. So we can kind of restate that. We can say, when March rains, break April's drought. And bathed every vein, and bathed each vein with liquor that has the power to generate therein and sire the flower. Well, what is rain? Rain is water, and rain is the water. You know, it's the liquor of life. It brings life to all of the things, the plants. They flower, they grow. So when rain breaks, April's drought, and all of the plants begin to grow because of H2O. When Zephyr also has, with his sweet breath, quickened again in every holt and heath. So sometimes when you're going through some of this old stuff, you're going to have to look some words up. So let's pop over here and look up holt and heath. What the heck is holt and heath? Oh, look, they're put together. And they're put together because it's something that, oh, yep, this is a cool website. And it's giving all of these, actually, it looks like it's all the stuff from what we're reading. So anyways, Holton Heath, Forest, and Field. So I'm going to go back here to my Canterbury Tales. And Zephyr, this is actually an allusion. The Zephyrs were the gods of the winds. But Zephyr is also with his sweet breath quickened again in every Holton Heath. So all the rains are growing, making all the plants grow. The wind has returned to the fields and forests. The tender shoots and buds, and the young sun into the ram one half his course is run. So the fields, the trees are blowing, the leaves are moving and growing. And then we have this little bit here about the young sun into the ram one half his course is run. So the animals are getting a little frisky. ... And many little birds make melody that sleep through all the night with open eyes. So the birds are starting to chirp. Everything is basically waking up. And nature pricks them on to ramp and rage. That's another one of those references to nature. Let's just say inspiring them to procreate, to make more little animals. So you can look at this and you can understand, like, what part of the year is this? This is spring. Spring has sprung. So at this time of year, then do folk long to go on pilgrimage, and palmers to go seeking out strange strands to distant shrines, well known in sundry lands. Here's another funny word. We could look it up. So let's see if it's here. Yep, it's here. Sondre, various, sundry. So in the spring, all the animals are waking up, all the birds, all the trees, everything, and the people are stirring as well. In this time period, people didn't have vacations, they didn't have weeks, they didn't have weekdays and weekends. They just woke up and worked. And worked and worked and worked. And they didn't have vacation time. You just worked all the time. And so if you needed a break, one of the things that you could do was to go on pilgrimage. And that's kind of what they're saying is they've been cooped up in the house all winter. And now it's spring, and now you have beautiful weather, and you have rain and wind and animals, and people are getting stir crazy. They want to get out and they want to move and go. And if they had the means and ability, this was a way to get to see a different part of the country and to take a break from a lot of your work. So they're stirring. They long to get out of their houses. And they want to go on pilgrimage, because going on pilgrimage allowed them a reason. You couldn't just say, I don't feel like working, but you could say, well, I'm going to go on a religious pilgrimage. And especially from every shire's end of England, they to Canterbury wend. To wend means to go, kind of to wind. The holy blessed martyr there to seek, who helped them when they lay so ill and weak. So people from all over England are going on pilgrimage because it's a way to get out of the house. And so one of the places they like to go to Canterbury. Hopefully by this point you have done your web quest. You know why they like to go to Canterbury and kind of what they're hoping to do there and see there and what they're referring to here when they say the Holy Blessed Martyr. So then he has this little break in the lines, and this is just something when you have long text, anytime you have a break in your lines, space like this, that's just a little space, indicates shift. So something's shifting here. It's still our same narrator, but what he's doing is he's kind of changing topics in this place. Okay? So it befell that in that season, on a day in Southwark at the Tabard, as I lay ready to start upon my pilgrimage to Canterbury, full of devout homage, there came to nightfall at that hostelry some 29 in a company of sundry persons, who had chanced to fall in fellowship, and pilgrims were they all that toward Canterbury town would ride. So like I said, if we're just going by sentence, that's a whole sentence. So again, let's take it couplet by couplet. Befell that in that season on a day in Southwark at the Tabard as I lay. So I was at the Tabard in Southwark, which is a part of England. The Tabard is an inn. And he is getting ready. He says, ready to start upon my pilgrimage to Canterbury, full of devout homage. I was at the Tabard in Southwark, getting ready for my own pilgrimage, when there came at nightfall to that hostelry some 29 in a company. 29 other people show up to the Tabard, of sundry persons who had chanced to fall in fellowship, and pilgrims were they all that toward Canterbury town would ride. So 29 other people show up. They are all also going to Canterbury and have fallen in together. Basically, they are a group. The rooms and stables spacious were and wide, and well we were there eased, and of the best. And briefly when the sun had gone to rest, so had I spoken with them every one, that I was of their fellowship anon, and made agreement that we'd early rise to take the road, as you I will apprise. So they're heading to Canterbury. The inn was nice. You know, just kind of, that's probably like that he's like, I need something to rhyme with ride so that I can get to this next point. So this is just kind of like a connector. He says, well, that we were there eased and of the best, and briefly, once the sun had gone to rest, so that night, I had spoken with them every one that I was of their fellowship anon. So that night we spoke, and he basically joins the group. I joined the group. I'm part of their fellowship. Anon means from now on. And made agreement that we'd early rise to take the road. And we agreed that we would all wake up early the next morning to head out. All right. But nonetheless, whilst I have time and space, before yet further in this tale I pace, it seems to me accordant with reason to inform you of the state of everyone, of all of these as it appeared to me, and who they were, and what was their degree, and even how arrayed there at the inn, and with a knight thus will I first begin. So he says, before we get on the road, while I have a moment, he says, I'm going to inform you of the state of everyone. I will kind of give you a preview of the people in the group. He says how they appeared to me, who they were, what was their degree, basically their station, their degree in life, the part of the world that they take up, you know, and this goes back to that estate system that we were looking at. And how arrayed there at the end, how they were dressed. So, you know, their appearance is important because remember they're going on this religious pilgrimage. So he says, I'm going to give you a preview of the people in the group, how they looked, acted, were dressed, what they were, etc., etc. And I will begin with the knight. So this thing, don't worry about this thing because that's from our slideshow. But that kind of gives you a general idea of how to go through it. Again, remember I said start with couplets, and then if you need to go on either side of the couplet or you need to look at the sentences, that's perfectly okay. But that will give you a good idea. Alrighty.